You have just announced a $2 billion plan to spend over the next 5 years when it comes to tackling climate change. Tell us some of the measures that you're thinking of.
Well, this is a critical time for agriculture with climate change. Not only are farmers dealing with the worst weather extremes ever, but also we need agriculture to be part of the solution to climate change. So we announced today a $2 billion investment going to breakthrough technologies, both to help farmers deal with climate change, so products that help them deal with high heat, drought, flooding that we're seeing today, but also help farmers reduce the impact of farming on the climate. So reduce the amount of CO2 emissions from farming, go towards carbon neutral farming, keep the carbon in the soil, higher yields so we can farm on less land and stop deforestation and actually start reforesting in the world.
How close is Syngenta to an IPO?
Well, we said that we would IPO within 5 years of when we were purchased by ChemChina. That was 2.5 years ago. So we will IPO within the next 2.5 years.
What steps are you taking in order to prepare for the IPO?
We're talking to banks. We're getting our story together. We are getting ready for when the market conditions are right and when our performance is strong.
What about strengthening your seeds business in order to better compete with your rivals?
Absolutely. So we made a major acquisition last year in Brazil and Argentina, very important markets for us. We've been investing in our base business, adding more research capability, more commercial capability, more digital tool capability, which is very important. And now we're focused on significantly expanding our capability in China. We want to be leaders in China ahead of our IPO.
And just characterize for us, when you talk about being leaders there, how important that market is, what kind of growth or penetration you want to see in China.
It's a hugely important market. And if you look at the Chinese agriculture market, the technology players there are all small. Many Chinese seed companies, many Chinese crop protection companies. All the international companies like Syngenta have been there for years, but we all have small single-digit market share. So China needs a leader. We're putting full effort into it, both building our base business, investing more in people, strengthening our capabilities on the ground there, but we're also doing M&A work. So we expect the combination of those two to enable us to build a clear leadership position in both seeds and crop protection. And then once we get that, we'll go for an IPO.
So you're a Chinese state-owned company that's also heavily dependent on U.S. farmers. So
Yes.
How is the U.S.-China trade war affecting your business, and what changes are you seeing emerging?
So the U.S. is our largest market in the world, hugely challenged this year, mainly because of weather. There was a horrendous flood in the United States, but also the trade war. So next year, we're hoping for better weather, but we're also really hoping that a trade deal can happen, at least in agriculture, because it's really important both for China, who needs the agriculture products that the U.S. farmer produces, but also important for the U.S. farmer that needs the Chinese agriculture markets. So we're trying to encourage that a deal gets done. We would love to see that happen. It would be great for the U.S. farmer. And by the way, the U.S. farmer is the most productive in the world. That's why we have so much capability here to serve the U.S. farmer. And the China market is the biggest market in the world. So it would be great to have those two lined up again.
It certainly would. Of course, there's a lot that has to happen between now and then. I mean, how much concern, and obviously you may even hear it from the Chinese side, progress is being made on trade tensions, because you're a company that could well be caught right in the middle of that.
Well, we feel that things are getting better. We're hoping that something happens in the fairly distant future. But at the same time, we've got a large business all over the world. We're in every single market around the world. So we'll keep serving farmers everywhere, including here in the United States, because the better the farmers do, the more options they have for exporting their products.
You talked about M&As when it comes to boosting your business in China. Is there anything in particular that you're looking at right now?
Yes, there are a number of things we're looking at now, both strengthening our base business, growing organically, strong double digits, but also acquisitions that I expect to announce sometime next year.
We have heard from the Chinese ambassador to Switzerland that ChemChina's acquisition of Syngenta was a mistake. Remember that? And that he's actually prepared to tell the enterprise to sell the pesticide maker. Have you heard anything else on this front?
Well, I heard about a day later, Frank Ning, our chairman, who's the chairman of Sinochem, ChemChina, and Syngenta, a very senior Chinese official, also go publicly and say that Syngenta is a very important asset, that very strong company that's doing well, and that Chinese are very pleased with their investment and looking forward to the future.